The Titans head into the bye week with a win. But boy, was it dramatic all the way until the final play. Titans 21, Washington Commanders 17. Welcome to Titans Talkback, presented by League Company, as the Titans successfully limp into the bye week, both literally and figuratively, and get above 500 for the first time in 2022. Alongside former Titan Kevin Dyson, my name is Will Boling. The phone number is 615-737-1045 as we welcome your phone calls reacting to this win. And Kevin, they did it again.
They did it again. At the end of the day, a win's a win, right? Offensively, it was good to see the King get off. I think the change up that you've seen from the first 2 weeks of the season was, how do we get Derrick Henry involved? You saw him involved in a passing game, especially early on. He had 30 yards in the first half. And then that seemed to spearhead the rest of the offense getting moving. They still have the tendency to struggle in the second half, getting the ball going. The adjustments are just not there. But, again, they found a way to get the points when they needed to get that third victory and take the lead in the division. So, defensively, and I'll come back to the offense in a second, still got to find ways to manufacture pressure. Big Jeff had a sack and a half. They've done some things there. But secondary-wise, the big plays. Carson Wentz was averaging 20 yards to completion there for a little while. I think we might be done with the Caleb Farley sighting. He might be done. He was one play, and that was about it other than special teams today. So we may be done there. Offensively, I'll talk about the offensive line. I'm going to start with Ravens. From all the stuff, the bad press and the question marks, he wasn't the cause of that. I thought he had a pretty stellar game for considering kind of a last-minute sort of addition to the offensive line. He wasn't necessarily the issue. Daly and Brewer, they both kind of struggled there on that left side of the line. Sweat was having an all-pro type day today on that left side of the Titans offensive line. But kudos to Ravens. He battled today. He wasn't the cause from all that pressure. And I got to speak to Tannehill. Tannehill, tough dude, man. He was under duress the whole game. He still stayed in that pocket and delivered. He did the big play to Westbrook-Akine down there, avoiding the pressure, trying to basically run for his life, and had a big throw. That was a tough catch. But, kudos to the Titans, man. They found a way to win a football game, hang on there, win their third in a row, get to come home, get the rest. They got a lot of injuries, guys in and out of the lineup right now. Hopefully you get some people back. And, you got another division opponent with the Colts coming in. So it's a great win in a lot of reasons.
And the defense, again, makes a play with its backs against the wall in the end zone and finds a way. David Long is the hero this time. T.R. Tart, who leads this team in pass breakups, wild stat, makes a play on the goal line. There are a number of topics that we are going to get into with you until Sunday Night Football coverage starts here in the zone at 6:25. But the defensive secondary, the banged-up defensive line that you have with Danico Autry even having to go out at one point in this game, and the changes you had to make of the offensive line. Nate Davis has been the best offensive lineman the Titans have had all season. Mm-hmm. You get word before the game that he's not going to be able to go, and Dylan Radin steps in. Admirable job by him. He's made 2 starts, and both of them have been in last-minute break glass in case of emergency situations.
Yeah.
And both times, I think we can say Dylan Radins has risen to the occasion. Now, the Titans allowed 5 sacks of Ryan Tannehill today, and the offensive line took a step back. Dennis Daly was not good at left tackle in this game.
He struggled today.
Montez Sweat was excellent. We'll give credit where credit's due, but Dennis Daly was not what we have seen over the past 2 weeks, ever since he came in for Taylor Lewan in week 2 and was shaky in that game as well. But there's lots of things that need to be corrected. But ultimately, Kevin, the storyline out of this game is going to be the bye week could not have come at a better time, as early as possible, as banged up as you are.
Man, when you think about the importance of certain positions, O-line, defensive line, pass rush, protecting your passer, obviously that was a part in this game. If you say, if we're going to lose this game, it's up front. The Titans were kind of losing that battle early on in specific occasions of the game, critical down situation. Sweat was getting after the quarterback. And, the first one wasn't necessarily on Daly. I think that was a schematic thing where it had slide protection. The tight end came over and was picking up the overhang, and he just beat the guy. And then there was a couple of times when Daly, man, he looked like he weighed about as much as me. They were just bull rushing him and throwing him around a little bit, which was kind of surprising because he had been so solid in relief, if you will, since he's taken over that spot. But kudos to the Titans, though. When they needed a drive, they needed to put points on the board, they got it done. Even though that last drive of the game, it was looking grim, you get down there, third down, they found a way to make a play. Now, Wentz back on his heels, going backwards, had his eyes on the guy for a long time. I'm assuming David Long, I didn't hear what he said on the interview, but I'm assuming he just read the quarterback the whole time. He just eyed this guy down the whole time. And you know what? You still got to make the catch. He made the catch, and there you go, sealing the victory.
We waited all game for the Carson Wentz turnover, and it came on the last play.
You felt like it was going to happen, but he was ballooning the ball up there. You just felt like it was coming at some point.
That's the he's down there somewhere play that Carson Wentz certainly had in Indianapolis, and just saw a radio host in Indy say on Twitter that Carson Wentz still killing the Colts in the clutch, just in a different uniform this time.
We'll take it.
That's tough. 615-737-1045 is the number today on Titans Talkback, and we begin with Greg calling from Rhode Island this afternoon. What's going on, Greg?
What's up, guys? We won.
Yes, sir.
That's right.
It's unbelievable. What a game. But, it came down to guys that just got the job done. You got to give it to Henry. You got to give it to guys like Tannehill that got it done and Simmons. But you know what? It's just the guys that got it done. It was Long. It was Hilliard. It was Autry. And, they impressed. And I got to say, one guy that I'm really impressed with is Hilliard. And, man, David Long, what a guy. What a pickup. What a final play. That's the guys that are going to bring us all the way back to the championship and hopefully a Super Bowl this year.
Thank you, Greg.
You got to step up.
Dontrell Hilliard had his third touchdown catch of the season already today.
He's becoming a nice receiving threat out of the backfield, and I think that's the complementary piece to Derrick Henry. Another component, something you got to be aware of. Now, are they becoming predictable with that? I don't know. I think one thing I did notice from a schematic standpoint, this is similar to what Cincinnati did to the Titans in that playoff game. They went mano-a-mano. They went with a 50-man front, which you have 5 men. You had all the linemen covered up, so it's one-on-one. That in itself will keep linebackers free to flow.
Sure.
Especially if you single back, now you got your linebackers be able to flow. They're going to try to stop the run and force the guys on the outside to beat you one-on-one. And they're saying you don't have guys that can beat us consistently in our secondary piece. But the Titans, kudos to them. Whatever they did differently from compared to that playoff game with that same sort of look, they would still be able to get them yardage, especially in the second half. Derrick Henry wasn't necessarily stymied. Now, they had a lot of negative plays. I think there was 7 negative plays from a Redskins standpoint. I think he had 7 tackles for loss, and that's not including the 5 sacks. So that right there is telling you the Titans are starting to figure out how people are trying to play them and what's that counter move. And the counter moves right now seem to be getting the running backs involved in the passing game.
615-737-1045 if you want to jump in on the conversation here on Titans Talkback. Eric in Nashville is up next on the show. Good afternoon, Eric.
Hey, guys, just a few observations. First of all, great play by David Long. And, guys, if you remember on the drive, Ron Rivera wasted the timeout by challenging, because if he doesn't do that, maybe he has a timeout that late in the game, which could be totally different things, but I'm glad he wasted it. And also, David Long read the quarterback and able to make that play, because if he doesn't make that play, it looks like that's a touchdown this time's running out. So great play by David Long. But just a couple of comments, guys. Tannehill, great on that play where he throws the ball. Nick Westbrook, Aquino, he takes a lot of criticism, but he hung in there and made that great play, especially after the first 2 drives we were 3 and out. And after Washington scored a touchdown, I said, well, let's see if we get a score second half, which we did. But, guys, here's the thing that frustrates me. So the officiating was horrible. You had I guess it was 3 straight penalties in the first half. One where I thought the flag came in late. There was another one where the guy threw the flag from way across the field. But here's the 2 plays that really just bothered me. One, the rough and the passer call against Jeffrey Simmons was horrible.
Awful.
Luckily, we overcame that, and it didn't cost us. We were able to hold them out. But here's the thing. You may have talked about this, guys. The commentators talked about this, and I guess the referee that was in the booth talked about that, where Tannehill got sacked the second time, and the defender for Washington pulled off his helmet. That should have been a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike contact, drive continue. They missed that. So they were clearly saying there should have been a flag, and the flag was not thrown. But overall, guys, we overcame and won. Go Titans, guys. Y'all take care, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Eric.
I don't know if you saw the replay of the roughing the passer they had on Tom Brady. Did you see that?
I have seen people talking about it on Twitter, but I have not seen it.
I only referenced that to say this is the Tom Brady effect.
It's consistent.
Yeah, when he got that ACL surgery years ago by being in a pocket, the guy ended up going low. This is the residual from that. I think, they're trying to protect the passer, protect the biggest investment on the football team, the guys who make the most money, the guys a lot of people come to see is the quarterback, right? And that's the most noticeable position. And I think just the glance of the helmet, the hands to the helmet, it's going to get flagged, unfortunately. I wish there could be more I'm going to say this, and I hate judgmental call, but more of a judgmental type call.
Yeah.
Because there was no ill intent there. You know what I mean? He was bringing his hands down. It just had his helmet, as the follow-through came, put his hands on glanced his face mask. And then the one, again, this is about the Titans, but the Tom Brady one, it was a tackle. It's getting a little bit out of control. But I understand the protection of the quarterback. But that call today, fortunately, I should say, it didn't cost the Titans. But at that time, that was a big call. They extended the drive and gave them some much-needed breathing room that they weren't going to have otherwise.
It was huge. And I think you can criticize more the intent of the rule versus the application of the rule.
Right.
The NFL has been consistent that if you swipe the quarterback in the head like that, it's a penalty.
That's it.
It's roughing the passer. It just is.
Yep.
I certainly have an issue with the rule itself because in that moment when your hand is up trying to bat the football away and you swipe down,
yes.
You hear Mike Vrabel use that word a lot. Just you're trying to swipe at a guy's leg and you more want to swipe at them versus kind of, I guess, clubbing them, so to speak, or using your weight on the quarterback. You would know better than me the terminology used by coaches in in those kinds of conversations. But NFL's consistent. That's roughing the passer.
Yeah, to your point, man, again, if he was clubbing, like literally like putting his hands in the quarterback's face, grabbing at something, that was an invert. He was trying to get his hands in the air to take away his vision for an open receiver downfield. And at that point, it wasn't no intent. It was no ill intent. And I think that's where, again, to your point, Will, the whole premise behind it is protect the quarterback. And I get it. No matter what happens, you put your hand on his helmet, it could be just like we saw today. They're going to make that call. And unfortunately, that cost the Titans some much-needed yardage and let them convert a first down when they weren't going to in the meantime.
615-737-1045 is the phone number today. Give your thoughts on the Titans win as they get into the bye week with a 21-17 win over the Washington Commanders. 615-737-1045 here on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Adam in Portland is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Adam?
Hey, guys. So a couple weeks ago, we get thumped by Buffalo in Buffalo. The whole city's melting. They're like, oh, my God, we got to shuck everybody out of here. They're done. I called in. I said, we'll be 3-2 in just a few weeks. And we're 3-2. So we get to the bye week. It wasn't pretty. I would go as far as to say I think we have the worst offensive line in football. And I hate to say that. Maybe I know Washington's given up more sacks, but just as a whole, it's not pretty. You have 2 weeks, John Robinson, from today to figure something out. If it means getting on the phone tomorrow and bringing in more people to try out, do that. Other people I see trade all the time. Trade. I don't know who's out there. Maybe nobody, but you got to try something because what we got is not sustainable. I think if it was anybody other than Washington today, it might have been different for us. So, but the main thing is you wanted to get to 3-2 today. You did that. I'm proud of the team for doing that, but something's got to change with that offensive line, man.
Thank you, Adam.
Well, I can understand that frustration.
Yeah.
However, the King still had 100 yards rushing. He didn't have that the first couple of weeks of the season.
I was going to say, I'm going to push back on that too, just a little bit, because you don't have separation downfield in the passing game. Your deep threat receiver who is coming along and Traylon Burks is on IR right now.
Yeah, and they still were getting a lot of push up front. They were leaning on bodies. Now they had some protection issues, and again, you heard the adjustments. I think Vrabel talked about using the running back to chip and help the tackles, help them get more time for Tannehill. Tannehill still had a semi-decent day, 15 of 25, 181 yards, and a touchdown. He just was hit a lot today. I think if we look back on the injuries, one thing about offensive line is that continuity and that communication. But the way Washington played them today, especially on running downs when they put 5 men across, it was basically what they were saying was, we don't think all 5 of your guys are good as our 5. And at times they weren't. And that's something they got correct and watch film. Daly today, he had a rough go. He looked like he was a young guy getting manhandled by a veteran, and sweat exposed him a little bit today. So he's going to have to get more competitive. But I would, to your point, I would push back on that just a little bit. I mean, he still ran over for 100 yards against a pretty good front seven. But one thing, I mean, let's go back to week 1. Remember, everybody's ready to jump ship, lost to the Giants, who won 4 games before, the year before. Look at that Giant team.
They've won 4 games this year, too.
With a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 4-1 right now. So, so that loss doesn't look nearly as bad as it did. The one that still aches at you is the Buffalo one, just because the dominant fashion in which they did it. And that is not a Titan team. But you see the Titans coming back around, the physicality's coming back around, that resiliency's coming back around, and now they're finding ways to win football games. Now we'll just see if this formula can continue for the next 13 games.
The only thing that separates the Titans from being the number 2 team in the AFC seeding-wise this year and being where they are now is a missed kick in week 1. A kick they made a lot last season.
Yeah.
And over the course of the season, those things even themselves out.
Absolutely.
Randy Bullock's a pretty good kicker.
Right.
Not to rehash the New York game, but how different of a conversation are we having right now if he just makes a kick?
Yeah. Even the ugliness of the way they won today.
Right.
And last week.
Right.
Even with all that. 4-1, we're not talking about, need offensive line. And, you know what I'm saying?
It's all these injuries. Look, they're 4-1. Right.
Come on now. Like last year, they set an NFL record for all the personnel moves that they had. And they still got the number 1 seed, right? It's interesting, and you can give credits where it's due, and that's Vrabel and the staff and JR. They've been able to find guys to find ways to win football games. They bought into the philosophy of the head coach and the GM and the organization, and there's still, you still got your core guys, the, Kevin Byards and Big Jeff and Tannehill and the King, and these guys are just continuing with that process. And then the guys that come in, you just step up, you get moved out, and then we saw that today with Caleb. He didn't step up. They moved him out to put the next guy in.
Tyree Mitchell was back in on the last drive. Titans need to get healthy at corner in a big way.
They definitely need to get healthy because, it doesn't get any easier from here, as we've talked about plenty of times on this show.
I think this defense can still be pretty good, but this defense is giving up just huge plays down the field in the passing game. Mm-hmm. I think we've seen now, Dr. Dyson, that the rushing defense problems in week 1 were more about Saquon Barkley just being back to being Saquon Barkley.
There you go.
Than it is the Titans' rush defense having a big issue. The caveat to that is Dylan Cole's been terrific in run defense. Him and David Long have developed a pretty good chemistry pretty quickly now where, yes, Monty Rice is reactivated and is back on the roster, but you don't have to rush him back to playing every snap, every single game until Dylan Cole gives up that spot and misses. Today, the Titans defense gives up 43 rushing yards on 17 attempts. Washington averages 2.5 yards a carry. The 3 sacks as well for Carson Wentz. The defensive front was good again today for the Titans, but I think specifically they deserve credit in the way they've shut down the rush defense. It's just those 5 to 10% of the plays are these big plays over the top of the defense, and getting Ugo Amadi back and getting Elijah Molden back are 2 very, very important pieces of the conversation right now for the Titans, because Roger McCreary can start to play more outside corner. It doesn't have to just be in the slot. You've seen Andrew Adams, you've seen Lonnie Johnson, you've seen other guys play inside. This Titans defense is going to be at its best this season with Christian Fulton on one side, who continues to develop into a number 1 corner, shuts down Terry McLaurin today, albeit other than a 34-yard catch for him. And then on the other side, it's Roger McCreary, and on the inside, it's Ugo Amadi and Elijah Molden. That's what you're riding with at this point.
And I'll add another piece to it. I think part of the issues is, for instance, they're getting one-on-ones on the edges, and teams are being able to scheme and say, I'm going to get one-on-one, I can beat this guy. They said, we're going to run this scheme. If we got this guy versus their player, we're going to take a shot in their one-on-one. A lot of times when you go one-on-one like that, that means you're trying to manufacture some pressure, get the blitz packages going, and you send in extra guys, which a lot of times equates to being man-on-man on the outside or in the slot. And at that particular point, I'm going back to the Caleb Farley play, that was the case. They put him on an island and said, your guy cannot cover my guy. And that's what Washington, the scheme, won, because that was the truth. He could not handle that guy in that particular moment. I think that what the Titans got to be funnier, because what I saw late in the game is they were playing the catch, more of a catch defense, keeping more of everything in front of you because of the fear of giving up the big play. But that shows you when Big Jeff stepped up, he started getting pressure.
Right.
All the guys started getting pressure. Weaver, who's having a career year to date, is got to continue to grow and develop, and he's got to become more of an every down player as opposed to just a pass rusher, which today they showed a little bit of that, his development. He dropped him off in the pass coverage, and he made a play. So it's a continual process. Guys are somewhat outside of their element, of their skill set, but they're trying to develop those skill sets. And then I'm going to come back to your point about the corners. That is kind of right now, because the inconsistency, they're trying to make a mixed bag, trying to find somebody that's going to stick, somebody that wants the job. They were hoping that it was Caleb. They had him out there in the beginning. He was with the first crew, and then they moved him out of starting line. Then they put him in on nickel. Then they gave him another shot. Then he wasn't so I think, what was that? A couple weeks ago, he had played like one play and maybe two.
Yeah, it was against Las Vegas. He had one defensive snap in that game.
Snap. And then, again, you're kind of seeing that trend. I'd be surprised if he's active next week, right? And so that goes to show you they just want guys that are going to compete and not give up the big play until they get their health back. And once they get that back, to your point, you can get a consistent rotation, you get a consistent look, and that just helps everybody develop. Like we hadn't seen – I was thinking that today during the game. When's the last time you saw Kevin Byard come out the edge and blitz? They can't. They
can't afford to.
They can't expend him.
Exactly.
They need him back there. And so last year he was being able to do a little bit of everything.
Amani Hooker too.
Yep. They can't. They can't lead them guys out there by themselves right now because of the inconsistency. And Kevin Byard is a multifaceted, talented guy who's a run stopper. We know he's very well in the pass game, but he also has shown the ability to get out the quarterback off the edges. And that's a facet of the game we haven't been able to see this year because he's got to protect his guys.
When you see the Titans defense make plays like they did in the red zone to win the football game today, you just can't help but get the sense that they're close to being a pretty good defense.
Yeah.
Right now, the cornerback play and the one-on-ones at the outside, I think you're right, are holding them back. And the margin for error is smaller considering Harold Landry is out for the season and Bud Dupree's had a hip injury now for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Makes things tougher on those corners as well.
Yeah, because I'll tell you, and even Dion would tell you in his prime, a good corner is as good as his pass rush.
Yeah.
A great
sure.
corner.
Absolutely right.
The ball comes out a little quicker sometimes or inaccurate or whatever it may be. But if quarterback can sit back, I don't care. Carson Wentz, whoever's having a bad year struggling, he had 359 yards passing. All these quarterbacks are good. You give them opportunity and time, they're going to find the open guy. And you can't put your hands on guys anymore, so they definitely going to find ways to make plays.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in here on Titans Talkback. Jack in Goodlettsville is up next on the show. Hello, Jack.
Yes, sir. I don't know where the place is where you go to find lousy cornerbacks, but the Titans obviously do. They go there year after year to sign these guys. That's what y'all are sort of talking about, y'all being kind. The reason they don't play press coverage is because they can't, and they still get beat downfield. If I was coaching against the Titans, I would tell them ahead of time, I'm going to pass on you every play, and they still couldn't stop me. They just can't do it. They try, but they can't do it. Who's worse, Farley or Mitchell? Christian Fulton, in my opinion, is not much farther behind because the only thing he does is good at is getting interference calls when he does get close to him, when he is challenged downfield. And I also disagree with you guys. I think the offensive line, except for Jones, is terrible. Now, granted, the right tackle's, first-year man and all that, but I feel sorry for Tannehill and Henry having to try to move forward or pass and Henry's case run behind those guys.
Well, Henry had 102 yards today, and Nate Davis is one of the highest graded right guards in the NFL. He was just hurt today.
And we didn't say they was out here killing it.
Yeah, they're not great, but they've been a pleasant surprise this year, and they regressed today.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jay.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
No, we are not giving O-line a pass.
No, we're not. They gave up 5 sacks today, and Derrick Henry created a lot of plays on his own. But, look, I mean, we're just going to tell you how it is. I mean, yeah, you got 105 yards on 32 carries. You had 3.3 yards per carry. Ends up being good enough. But at the end of the day, the offensive line wasn't good enough against a good Commander's defensive line. PFF had the Commander's D-line ranked as the 5th best defensive line in the NFL coming into this game. You always knew that Montez Sweat was going to get his, and Jonathan Allen and those guys were going to get theirs. Does that excuse the way Dennis Daly played? Absolutely not. And I think he needed more help on the outside from the tight ends and from Hassan Haskins and Dontrell Hilliard that didn't do a good enough job chipping and helping him out as the game went. But, I mean, come on. I mean, I don't think the offensive line this season has been atrocious. I think they've actually been better than I expected with my low expectations so far this year.
I wouldn't say they've been good. I wouldn't say they've been bad. I think they've been considering. Again, we'll talk about Dylan Radins today. He was throwing the start lineup last minute. I guess it probably was a conversation they had last night because they were unsure. So with that being said, today I paid special attention to him to see, right? And I didn't see anything glaring that where he was the cause of everything that was going on there. Now, the left side of the offensive line struggled today. Brewer and Daly kind of both struggled today. They were giving up all kind of pressure. But during the run game, there were times they did get some push. But you got to remember, sometimes the NFL is about matchups. And my guy across from you, sometimes you match up better than that guy. Just the skill sets are just different. And I think I'm not by any means, because your quarterback was hit way too much. He took way too many. He was on pressure way too much today for me to say they were good today. That's not even close to my vocabulary today.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, in retrospect, glass half full. You had a 100-yard rusher. He had a good game passing the football from a statistical standpoint. Now, he was getting hit a lot. That, in retrospect, gives them a quote-unquote pass. And as far as the secondary, to the caller's point, it's struggling. And I don't know if there's some uncertainty, like lack of confidence, but some of these guys, man, I think Fulton is a guy who's starting to get comfortable in his skin. He had a little swagger about him. McQuarrie, I think he also had a little swag about him. But that third and fourth guy right now is some uncertainty. And if you want to help some struggling corners, as a caller mentioned, you got to get after the quarterback.
Christian Fulton has been fine outside of week 1 against the Giants, when he gave up the long pass play that sets up New York's touchdown in that second half to begin that comeback. Since Christian Fulton has come back from injury, he's been good. Everybody else, Roger McCreary has been good, I think. It gives up the one touchdown today. That was a one-handed catch De'Ami Brown makes in the end zone on a perfect ball. It's good defense, just good play all around. Christian Fulton also has a pass breakup on the opening drive of this game. Plays perfect coverage on Curtis Samuel, gets the football on the turf, and makes a play. Outside of Fulton, Amani Hooker, Kevin Byard, and Roger McCreary, Titans have major issues at the cornerback position.
Absolutely.
Mitchell has not been good enough for them at that position. And you look across the board, nobody else has been healthy at that position to really help out. It's problematic what they're trying to piece together here. And anyone you're going to get off the street now from other practice squads are essentially the same quality of corner and safety at this point of the process.
I noticed after that big touchdown on McCreary that they did go a little bit more zone coverage. And again, I don't know if that's part of the game plan or they switched it up because of they were getting the ball over the top. I mean, at one point Carson Wentz was averaging about 21 yards per completion. So I think they switched up their philosophy just a little bit, and they kept more of that umbrella defense, if you will, keeping everything in front of you. Look like more quarters and cover 2, things of that nature, which lends itself to catching and running. So they were still giving up some plays there. But that mano-a-mano, that man versus man, they struggled, to your point. The guys haven't stepped up on a consistent basis to make plays, especially on the edges. And that's where you make your money as a corner. You're going to get beat. That's the name of this game.
Yep.
Especially that one play you mentioned, a one-hand catch. I don't think he had tighter coverage. That ball was as well placed as any ball you will see. he caught the ball for the receiver. That's how good a ball that was. He just literally put his hands up and it landed in his pocket, and he got a touchdown. So that's just one of those things when you just tip your hat to him and say, man, they just made a play. But for the most part, these guys have got to find ways to step up and not give up the plays that they're giving up.
Yeah, Terrence Mitchell comes in after Caleb Farley. Problematic again at that position. But many more things to dissect from this game. Ryan Tannehill's play, 95.6 passer rating for him despite taking 13 hits, 5 sacks.
Hey, 13 hits?
13 hits in this game. Derrick Henry's day, we'll discuss that as the show continues. How about Nick Westbrook-Akine making a big play downfield? Perhaps the biggest play for the Titans offense all season to keep that drive alive. A 61-yard touchdown, a touchdown after the 61-yard catch from Nick Westbrook-Akine at that point in the game. Tons to discuss. We're with you until 6:30 right here, taking you up to coverage of Sunday Night Football here on 104.5 The Zone. And more of your phone calls when we come back. Jawan will lead us off after the break. 615-737-1045 is how you get in on the conversation. It's Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 104.5 The Zone.
Wentz takes the snap. Looking, throwing, intercepted! Intercepted, David Long! And the Titans have shut down the Commanders at the 2! Yes! That is a hell yes!
That was the call from voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, on Titans Radio as the Titans beat the Commanders 21-17 with a hell yes from Coach Dave McGinnis, because, of course, alongside Dr. Kevin Dyson, I'm Will Boling. Here on Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com and join us on the phone lines at 615-737-1045, where Jawan in Brentwood is up next this afternoon. Hello, Jawan.
What's happening, gentlemen?
What's up, man?
Not much, man.
Hey, a couple of things for you guys today. I know everybody's been talking about our offensive line. I thought they did a decent job today. The reason I said I feel like they did a decent job today, because if I'm correct, aren't most of the guys on Washington's front line, weren't most of them first-round draft picks?
That's correct.
I figured they were going to have a tough time with them anyway, and I think that's going to be Washington's key all year long is their defensive line. So for Derrick Henry to get as much yards as he did, I really didn't think he was going to get much. And thank God Tannehill's still standing up. But I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this. Today, I felt like the best play that I saw in the game today, outside the long pass and all of it, was when T.R. Tart dropped off the line of scrimmage, dropped back in coverage, and made a quick break on that ball down on the end zone. I want you guys to talk about that, talk about the play, just talk about what he did right there.
Thank you, Juwan. T.R. Tart's becoming a player.
You saw the athleticism by the big fella.
You sure did.
You don't drop a guy like that in a moment like that without believing he has some athleticism, be able to create some havoc in the passing game. And he did what we saw David Long do at the end. He read the quarterback's eyes, got his hands involved, and he leads the team in pass breakups. How about that? That's crazy.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Absolutely wild.
I think the only person I've known to do that was my man in Houston. Golly, he's at Arizona now.
J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt, thank you. J.J. Watt led this team in pass breakups. But he's a Hall of Famer, though.
That's right.
And not to say Tart is not on that line, but, he's having a great season.
He really is. And he continues to make plays. He continues to get pressure up the middle. I think the Titans defense takes such a step forward, especially up front, as soon as Bud Dupree's healthy again. And Ola Adaney, too, and the moves that we've seen him make within this Tennessee Titans defense over the last couple of seasons. That interior pressure is there. You need to force those quarterbacks to step up more in the pocket. Rashad Weaver has been terrific.
He's having a good year.
He is having a career season. You're the top of the NFL in sacks. And how about Danico Autry, too, a guy we've not mentioned yet? The 2 sacks a week ago against his former team. Follows it up with another sack today and continues to play out of position on the outside of the Titans' defensive front, and you can't tell. I know the base, it's kind of a 3-4. It really feels more like the Titans are in nickel so much that it really is that 4-man defensive front, the 2 linebackers and the extra safety or the extra cornerback on the field where the Titans are so often in that kind of space. And Danico Autry is kind of playing as a 4-down lineman outside, just defensive end, so to speak.
Yeah, and in a season of ups and downs, and you mentioned a couple guys that may be coming back, and we'll see how it all works out. You got to have guys that step up, make plays, especially Big Jeff, who we know is going to get a lot of attention. He's going to get a lot of double teams, and we saw a little bit of it today. So for those other guys, you're going to have to beat that guy across you. Herm Edwards said it a long time ago in the Hard Knocks. He said at the end of the day, there's going to be some one-on-ones on the field. There's always a one-on-ones on every play. You just hope your guys win those one-on-one battles more often than they do. And if we do that, we give ourselves a better chance to win the football game. And at the beginning, especially within the passing game for the Washington Commanders, they were winning those one-on-one battles. And that's why you saw Tannehill struggle and things of that nature. But the Titans defensive line in particular stepped up and rose to the occasion and created some havoc themselves and made some plays, tip balls and things of that nature. So kind of balanced the equation. And once you did that, it becomes about making plays. Now, that being said, Washington made some big plays, especially downfield in the passing game. But at the end of the day, Titans made just one more play than they did. And that's what you get down to. When it got down to that nut cut time, man, it's third goal from the 2-yard line, somebody has to make a play. And at the end of the day, Titans made that one more play than Washington did and got to leave out of there with a victory.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in today on Titans Talkback. John in Brentwood is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, John?
How you doing, guys? I'm honored to talk to a couple of brilliant football minds.
How you doing, man?
Thank you, John.
I wanted to ask you a question. Thank you. I wanted to ask you a couple just one question real quick. On that very last play of the game, after they put their pads back on, we weren't going through enough cardiac arrest before that, but they had to come out for another play, and they were pretty far down. Had it been, what if they would have been like on the 6-inch line? Would a safety have ended the game?
As far as I know, that's a good question, honestly.
Well, circumstantially,
I think you can end the game on a safety.
Yeah.
Can't you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Then, yeah, I believe it would have.
But
because it's not considered a penalty.
That's right.
Yes.
I'll have to double check on that. I'll get you an answer on that, John, here in a minute. But either way,
that's what
yes.
I thought they were going to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, John. So, yeah, that's a good question. Well, let's get an answer on that. Because I believe you could have been able to end it there. I think there are a lot of people that bet on the game that were hoping it would not end on a safety so the Titans could cover that number. But, yeah, certainly it made things a little dicey. I've never seen that. Players swapping jerseys and have to put their jerseys back on.
Yeah.
After all that stuff happens.
All this stuff happens. Yeah, I believe you can end it on a safety. And even still, I don't know if it would have been enough time to even get anything done if you had to do like a kickoff or a punt, whatever. Because they would have probably caught it. Maybe they ran and do a bunch of pitches. I don't know, but I think you can end it on safety.
And we'll try to find out and get our crack research team on that. Brett Batchelor, our producer, get him an official answer on that. But I believe you are able to. Dylan in Hermitage is up next on the phone lines, where you can join us at 615-737-1045. What's going on, Dylan?
Yeah, I don't know if I missed it at the very beginning. I've been on for like the last hour, but I know that at the beginning of the season we talked all the time about first half versus second. It still is there. I mean, today a little bit less, but third quarter was non-existent. Fourth quarter, and Derrick Henry runs almost 100 yards every first half and then is snuffed out every third quarter. The secondary, it reminds me of Malcolm Butler's all over, that they want to be so glorified, getting that interception instead of just knocking the ball down and making a tackle. It's very it's a frustrating defense other than the defensive line to watch.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Kevin, I want to ask you this. Do you feel like as good as the Titans are in short yardage and in red zone defense, do you feel like that explains why they are often as conservative as they are and playing off the ball a little bit and allowing kind of the dink and dunk passes? Because they're giving up a lot of yardage in the pass game that they don't often give up. It's the first time in franchise history that the Titans have given up 300-plus yards passing in 3 straight games. Mm-hmm. But as good as they are in the red zone and on fourth down and short yardage and third down and short yardage, they still make plays like they did today on the 1-yard line to win the football game.
Yeah. I thought there was a transition in philosophy within the game. I thought they were, in beginning, aggressive, trying to get the quarterback, I think manufacturing some blitzes and things of that nature, and left guys on island. And we saw how that worked out, all right? And I think there was a philosophy shift later in the game where it was more of the bend, don't break, keep everything in front of you. We don't give a big play. I think at one point or another, Carson Wentz had 10 completions for like 200-something yards, like 210, 220 yards on 10 completions. Now, when they flipped the philosophy, it became about Carson Wentz was smart about it, dumping it off to the running back. They did a couple of things here and there. It was just about keeping everything in front of you and rallying to the football. So to me, that was the philosophy or mind shift within the game today. I think part of that is, and it's typical, is when you're not necessarily getting consistent pressure on the quarterback, that you tend to blitz to try to manufacture some turnovers. Maybe they want to force some throws from Carson Wentz. They know he had a tendency to put the ball in the air for long periods of time, meaning he had that balloon ball when he throws it deep that gives guys opportunities to get there and make plays. So they looked like they were maybe trying to get him to do something like that. But when he kept making plays, especially the two big ones there in the game, I think the shift from the Titans' perspective was, okay, we need to do something, make sure we don't give up these big plays. Those two big touchdowns, they were huge. The other side from those two big plays, look at the score, right? We're not even talking about that last play by David Long, right?
Exactly.
Because of those two big plays. So, I'm not going to say this that the Titans don't necessarily have that philosophy of bend, don't break on a regular basis. But today in particular, I felt like they were aggressive early on, left guys on islands thinking they can hold up, or maybe they were hoping they can hold up with their receivers. And when it didn't happen, there definitely was a shift in philosophy, especially late in the game.
Can't have it both ways, right? You can't say that, I'm going to try to play press man and play this press man-to-man defense and you get it thrown over your head. Well, then you can't complain that you're playing too far off because you're doing that in order to avoid giving up more 75-yard catches to De'Ami Brown.
Come on.
Who doesn't have a single touchdown catch in his career.
He ends up with 2.
And then he had 2 today.
Yeah. So, and again, nobody in the National Football League wants to give up those big plays. Those splash plays, they gut you, man. You know what I mean? It changed the momentum. It swings that shift over to the other side of football, gets people hope, gets them excited, and that's exactly what he did today. And so, again, we talk about, and from my perspective, I'm not watching the film, going from the TV copy today, and from my perspective, it looked like there was a philosophy shift in the way they called the defense. And again, a lot of times, when you're trying to force a quarterback's hand, you send extra pressure. You force them, like I'm going to blitz 3 guys off of this side knowing they're going to be hot adjustment over here, so I'll drop a guy into that passing lane. You do some things to manufacture maybe some turnovers, and Vrabel said it. One of the things they were anticipating, what they were hoping to accomplish was obviously get the win, but generate some turnovers. And they didn't necessarily get that today. Now, they got the one late in the game, but they didn't necessarily generate the turnovers. They thought the way Carson Wentz takes care of the football, the way he throws, the direct trajectory of his ball when he's throwing a deep ball, that they would have some opportunities to get some turnovers. It didn't work out like that. So then you go to plan B, and the plan B was, can he beat us going down the field methodically? And he didn't. Now, he had a good opportunity, but again, his Jekyll side reared his ugly head. He showed up and he threw that ill-advised pick on 3rd down, knowing you got one more down. You threw it in basically in double coverage, and David Long made the pick to seal the victory.
615-737-1045 is the number today on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Chuck in Clarksville is up next on the phone lines. Hello, Chuck.
Hey, guys.
Hey, man.
I just wanted to call in and not bitch about the Titans and just say, with all the baling wire and duct tape we've used this year, I think we're pretty good to be 3-2. I mean, you're looking at Bud Dupree, Harold Landry, Monty Hooker. There's 3 defensive starters, not in the games. You got, Traylon Burks. You got Taylor Lewan. You got, Nate Davis. We're getting it done without our starters. And if we can ever get healthier, a little bit healthier, I think we could really make a run. It's just we had to put so many different lineups in there, and communication is the hardest thing I think they're having to deal with all year. That's my take.
Thank you, Chuck.
I want to say, go Titans.
Thank you, sir. If you look back at how many guys the Titans had used this time last year, I believe that the number from John Glennon of SI.com, he put it out earlier this week. Titans through this point of the year had used 40 players a season ago.
Mm-hmm.
They've used 41 this year.
Dang.
Last year they set the NFL record for most players used in a season at 91. The difference now is you can only bring a certain amount of guys off of injured reserve over the course of the season. You can bring as many guys back as you wanted to last year that had obviously sat there for 4 games. Yeah. Right. That is no longer the case. You got 8 options of guys that you can bring off of IR. So the Titans are, in my opinion, not going to break that record this year because from a roster building standpoint, just roster building 101, that would just be simply because they're releasing guys and picking up new ones. I don't see the Titans wanting to play that game unless they have to because of injury. So I don't see the Titans getting to 91. But I think it's a good point. And talking with Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, earlier this week, and he said it on Titans Tonight here on Titans Radio on Wednesday, it is as unprecedented what has happened through 5 weeks this year, injury-wise, as that 91 players used stat was last year.
Right.
Like, it's almost as impressive as it was last year on how many guys you've had to replace, and not just guys, key guys. Ever since that Harold Landry injury on week 1, it has been a snowball, and it's probably an off-season conversation when you pinpoint the reasons why, or maybe it's an NFL conversation of just, you're not hitting as much in practice, and, there's just the changes the league has made. I'm not going to play that game now. That's a conversation for another time. Reality is you got to survive, and the Titans survived again today.
Yeah. By the way, found out it is true. You can't end the game on the
Yes, yeah, we did get confirmation from that for our producer, Brett Batchelor, doing a great job for us.
Thanks, Brett. So, to your point, I think, again, the NFLPA, they negotiated this new bargaining agreement where, as far as limitations on hitting, then, of course, the NFL switched from a traditional 16-game season to 17 with 3 preseason games. So philosophy shift came from coaches to how much you actually play your key guys, your starters. And what we're seeing, we saw injury last week. I think it was the Giants game. Receiver just went down, just running a route. So the non-football contact injuries seems to be elevated. And again, the NFL will never share this data. Maybe they will. I've never seen it, but maybe they will share this data on the injuries and what's taking place. But the fact that the Titans, over the last 2 years, have basically had a roster and a half, if you will, between the injuries and the movement that they've had to make sure they had a competitive product is remarkable when you think about it. Now, we've been having conversations all day today with different callers, this and that. The secondary was dismal. Offensive line struggled. We talked about the limited pass rush for the most part. The plays they've given up on the edges, who's going to be the nickel corner. All these conversations you had, when you think about the fact that they are 3-2 in the National Football League, that is a pretty astounding thing. Lead your division. I said it a few weeks ago, even though when they were 0-2, I still feel like they're going to win their division. I still feel like they're the best team in the South. However, injuries can end up changing that whole narrative. But they have found ways to continue to be relevant and continue to win football games. So for all of us that are fans of this team, we need to go ahead and be happy with that fact that we still have a relevant football team that's 3-2, that's right there in the hunt to win their division, being a playoffs team. We all know when you get to the playoffs, as we saw last year with the Bengals, you get hot the right time, you can make it all the way to the Super Bowl. And I'm not saying they're going to Super Bowl as of today, but I'm telling you, if you get hot the right times, you can beat a lot of teams. It's all about matchups at that point. In Cincinnati, they got the right matchups for where they were at that point last year, and they made all the way to the Super Bowl.
And along those same lines, the last Titans team that did make a run in the postseason was a wild card team that had to go on the road and beat Tom Brady and beat the 1 seed Lamar Jackson.
Yep.
As the 1 seed and with home field, they've been 0-2 in their last 2 over the past couple of seasons. So I think there's certainly a good point to be made there, for sure. Logan in Athens, Georgia, is hanging out with us today on Titans Talkback. You can join us at 615-737-1045. What's going on, Logan?
Hello?
Logan, you're on?
Yes.
Logan.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to go somewhere else. I think Logan is in a different conversation somewhere else. Alan in Lebanon. We'll go to him next on the phone line. What's going on, Alan?
Hey, guys. Yeah, just want to say go Vols, go Titans. First off, I just want to say, so I know Todd Downing obviously isn't doing a great job offensively, but, I know back when we had Arthur Smith, they were doing so many different things. And they were looking so much better with Derrick Henry, and he was making Ryan Tannehill look really great. I'm just wondering, is it about time maybe we try to see if we maybe need to go in a new direction with the offensive coordinator, or maybe do we just keep giving them more chances? Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
It won't be any time. It'll be, if it happens, it's going to be January, February at the end of the season, whatever that may be. I don't think it's going to be any time soon. I think he's committed to him. He very well being committed to Downing. I think he's doing the offense that he's most comfortable with as a head coach. He wants to run the football and make a few plays in the passing game, take a few opportunities downfield and try to make some plays. But at the end of the day, he just wants to make sure we don't turn the football over, don't have those costly mistakes that cost you to win football games. Protecting the football, mental mistakes, the missed blocks and drop passes. I think he's content where they're at. I think, we were talking off air, the creativity piece to what the caller was mentioning, there seems to be somewhat a lack of creativity to get some of the guys ball in their hands, where we saw some of that with A.J. Brown and some of the other guys. I feel like he's calling the offense, and they are running the offense. So Robert Woods is running and getting 8 targets today and 5 catches off of the offense, not necessarily schemed for him to beat something specifically that the Commanders were doing. And there's some truth in all that as far as you still got to be able to run your offense, but there's also looking for those moments that you could take advantage of. And I just haven't seen, from my perspective, a whole bunch of that, and I don't know if that's just being safe right now. You got some stuff that you're holding in your bag of tricks that you can pull out later. I don't know, but it just seems they're just quote unquote running their offense right now and getting what they get within the offense. And if Derrick Henry is struggling or he's not as engaged as we saw the first couple weeks, it took for them to get him involved in the passing game to seemingly open this thing up. And since then, even though today was only 30 yards, but it was a gash play, just like it was that first week, that first time around, that first win of this win streak, he got a big gash play, and it's got him going. It got that motor going. It just gave the defense another element to consider the possibility of now he's a pass catcher too? He's not just running between the tackles? Oh, my goodness. Now we got to worry about this. And so that is what I'm trying to get to, as I'm not understanding, is where is that creativity to maybe get Robert Woods some targets? We were talking off air. Cooper Kupp had like 18, 19 targets a week ago. And you can see they were just scheming him plays, pick plays, daggers, crossers, all these different things just to make sure they get their guy the ball. Maybe they don't have the same confidence that the Rams have in Kupp, that in Woods or some of these other guys, but they just seem to be just running, here's our offense and we're going to run it, as opposed to schematically trying to get the advantage.
Titans Talkback is presented by League Company. The Titans trust their home stadium to League Company to tackle their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical problems. They can protect your home, too. Your next play, visit LeagueCompany.com. League Company, all you need. It is also time for our Kroger Sacks for Cash. And tonight, Titans had 3 sacks, adding $300 courtesy of Danico Autry, Sam Okuwanu, and Jeffrey Simmons for the season. Kroger's donation to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee now stands at $2,000 courtesy of those 3 sacks today in Landover, Maryland. Every time the Titans sack the opposing team's quarterback, Kroger donates $100 to Second Harvest Food Bank of Middle Tennessee through its Zero Hunger, Zero Waste plan. Kroger is committed to ending hunger in our communities. When we come back, more of your phone calls at 615-737-1045. Tim and Rob will lead us off after the break as we continue to look at this Titans secondary. And Kevin Dyson, I have one stat for you that shares the contrast between the aggressiveness in the downfield passing game for the Titans and the aggressiveness of Carson Wentz and the Washington Commanders. And it's a very high completion percentage that Carson Wentz had in throwing the ball downfield. We'll talk about that when we come back. 1 hour down, another hour and a half to go. It's Titans Talkback, presented by League Company on 104.5 The Zone.
Wentz looking, firing downfield, ball tipped, incomplete. Weaver had backed into coverage and got the big paw up to bat it away. The ball goes over on downs, and the Titans, leading 14-10 in the third, will take over on their own 40.
Some big plays for the Titans defense in the second half. They get the win today over the Washington Commanders, a 21-17 final score. They are first in the AFC South. They are above 500 for the first time in 2022, and they are into a bye week with a really big opportunity to finally get healthy and rest up a little bit over the next few days. Alongside Kevin Dyson, I'm Will Boling. Hour 2 of our coverage here on Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com. We begin the 5 p.m. hour with Rob in Nashville up next on the phones, or you can join us at 615-737-1045. What's going on, Rob?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Well, I was just listening to you guys, and, someone had called in earlier on what I'm about to say here. First of all, good win for them, but, I'm going to have to say this. The game itself, the cornerbacks, to me, they just played way off too far. It's ridiculous. They about lost that game, and it had it not been for, that last play at the end of the game, they would have lost the game. And then I got, one last thing to say. I can't believe that they are not playing Josh Gordon. He's a good receiver. Why are they not playing him? That's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. Yeah. Look, I know it's frustrating real quick for you because I want to get your thoughts on Josh Gordon too. I know it's frustrating, but when you give up catches of 75 and 30 for touchdowns and more catches of 34, 32, and 20, you kind of have to play off.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to keep throwing it over your head if you don't. So It's either that, and you trust that your short yardage defense comes up big and tips a pass like Weaver did on fourth down that you just heard, and then you hope that you make a play in the end zone like David Long did in the game. That's how the Titans defense has to live right now, as banged up as they are.
Yeah, you never want to give up gash plays like that. 75, man, that's as rare as those are, you don't ever want to give those up. And they gave up two big splash plays and you mentioned a few more, 31, 30, 35 and 75, 34.
Yeah.
Something to that effect. And you're going to have to keep things in front of you at some point, especially when you're trying to manufacture a pass rush, a consistent pass rush. You don't have that 10-sack guy right now or 10-plus sack guy right now as we had with Landry last year. So as good as Weaver's been, it's not been as consistent as you would hope as far as pressure. Now, they're doing some things well, stopping the run game, and they're not giving up a whole lot of yards that way. They're getting off the field. Today, I think Washington had one third-down conversion of the whole game. So, they're doing some things and the hidden numbers well, but the gash plays what you worry about. And you just can't have a fat dosage, especially in the National Football League now. You only got basically that first initial contact. You can't put your hands on guys. So you're going to give up a big play or another. If you keep putting your hands on guys, you're going to get the PI down the field, and you're still looking at you giving up big plays even though the ball's not a completion. So it's going to be interesting to see how they hold up as guys get healthy. They got to get some more experience. McCrary, he's got to get some more experience. He's got still things he hadn't seen, but I think he's going to be okay. I watch how he competes. I like where he's at as far as when the ball's in the air in relationship to the receiver and coverage. That one big play he gave up today, man, he was there. He had good coverage. That was just a heck of a ball, heck of a catch. There's not much he can do about that one except for be 7 foot tall and get his hands up. I don't know what else he could have done. So, again, it was a big play, big touchdown, but that's what you're trying to avoid anyway if you're a coordinator or head coach.
On passes 20 yards or more downfield today, Kevin Dyson, Carson Wentz was 4 for 5 for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns.
There you go.
Ryan Tannehill was 1 of 2 for 61 yards. Mm-hmm. That is why the Titans are playing off coverage and not playing press man, is because look at the play where Caleb Farley gives up the 75-yard touchdown to De'Ami Brown.
Yeah.
He's playing right up on the line of scrimmage on him and doesn't lay a finger on him until he's passed him about 15 yards down the field and isn't able to make the play, and it's a Washington Commanders touchdown at that point of the game to take the lead 10-7. So you want to know why the Titans are playing off? It's because Carson Wentz was 4 for 5 for 171 yards and 2 touchdowns on those deep balls against your secondary.
Yeah, especially today. You know, it's not always going to be the case, right? But today he was. Carson Wentz was hot as far as vertical game was concerned. He found something. He made a couple plays. I think that one, the 75-yarder was strategic. I think they ran a formation. They knew in a motion that they felt like they were going to get the coverage they wanted, which was an isolation on the backside, and they ran a skinny post or post to what's his name, Brown, and good ball. And Caleb he stumbled a little bit, and that was all it took. Gave up the big play, and that's the last time we saw him.
The question about Josh Gordon, too, by the way. Josh Gordon is an athlete. Josh Gordon has not had a season over 450 yards since 2018.
Yeah, and he hasn't had a complete season probably since then.
Last season, he plays in 12 games and had 5 catches for 14 yards. 5 catches for 32 yards on 14 targets with the Kansas City Chiefs. And if the Chiefs offense can't figure out how to use him and his athleticism, then I just think that's kind of who he is at this point of his career, unfortunately. He's a roster churn guy that you bring in and give him a shot and see if he's a fit.
I think people got the Josh Gordon of old in their mind. And there's something to that, too. I get it. He hasn't played a lot. So you think he doesn't have the same wear and tear on his body as he would have had he been playing this whole time. But there's a reason, and we just probably got to trust the coaches in what they are and what they are not seeing. It could be as much as still learning the playbook. You know, even though he's been in the league a long time, he might have some difficulties grasping the concepts or the terminology or what have you that they don't necessarily feel they can trust and put him in there every down. But I find it a little bit perplexing that he didn't get some burn today, considering the Traylon Burks went to IR and things of that nature. I'm like, you can scheme him up some plays if he's showing that in practice. You know, you don't have to know the whole playbook to get a guy some opportunity to make plays if you feel he has that ability.
615-737-1045 is the number tonight on Titans Talkback presented by League Company. Tim in Nashville is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Tim?
Hey, guys. Hope y'all well.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Just one comment, and Rob kind of stole my thunder because I was going to ask about the secondary, about Farley and giving up the deep ball too much. But y'all pretty much addressed that. I did want to give a shout out to, well, let's just talk about the offensive line. I thought they kind of struggled out. I was going to give a shout out to Kevin Byard. He's my favorite Titan. Really impressed he got his number retired at MTSU, which is where I went. But y'all talked a lot about the secondary. Just I would love to hear y'all's opinion about the O-line. I know it's patchwork, but anyway, that's all I got.
Thank you, Tim. Dennis Daly was not as good today as he's been in his previous few starts.
That's putting it lightly.
That's putting it extremely lightly. Dennis Daly was bad in this game. Montez Sweat is a good edge rusher. He's not that good. He was looking like Reggie White out there in a Washington Commanders uniform. Against the Titans offensive line. I think considering not having Nate Davis, it's about what I expected for them today.
Yeah.
5 sacks is a lot.
That's a lot.
They've got to be better.
Yeah.
I think they've got to be more creative in ways they rolled Ryan Tannehill out of the pocket for me.
Yeah. Well, I think to me, the number of sacks is concerning. The style in which the sacks came.
Yes.
That's what concerned me.
Absolutely. They're getting their money's worth. When they're letting guys through, it's like immediately.
Yeah, like you got thrown around like a rag doll. Like that's what was concerning to me. And you mentioned it before one of the breaks that he was hit 13 times today. And that's why I got to tip my hat to Tannehill because he's still standing there and trying to deliver. He wasn't panicked. He wasn't happy feet in there like most, especially veteran quarterbacks. He still was trying to sit in that pocket and deliver the football, even with all the pressure around him. But to me, it was not necessarily the number of sacks. Those things happen, but it was in which they were happening. And I'll be interested to hear what Ramon has to say tomorrow because it just seemed like those guys were just getting manhandled and pushed.
Yeah.
The first sack aside, the first sack was a slide protection, play action where – based on coverage, probably supposed to get the ball. You hoping your tight end was going to be able to hold up a little longer so you can maybe take a shot downfield. The tight end just got dusted to the side and Sweat came off and got the sack. That one aside, the other ones, from my memory, they were just like you just got dogged, man. You just got beat.
One-on-one.
One-on-one.
It's a one-on-one league.
Yeah.
Coach Mack always says there are no magic plays in this league. You just have to win one-on-one. And the Titans' offensive line is not winning one-on-one.
And it didn't. And that's, to me, that was what it is. Sacks happen. Sometimes they scheme you right. They blitz it right. But the ones that today where you just got physically beat and manhandled from the guy in front of you, that's the ones that concern me. But, hey, sometimes they're going to scheme you. They're going to get it right. They're going to send 4 from the weak side. You only got 3 blockers. Well, there's nothing you can do about that. You know what I mean?
Right.
They guessed right on that play. But today, at least 3 of them that I can remember them, they were just like, get out of my way, little boy. That's what it seemed like, you know?
Right.
And that's the ones that concern you.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in here on Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. Phil in Portland on deck on the phone lines. What's going on, Phil?
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Hey, Kevin, listen, I thought this over, and, I appreciate you as a player. I got a lot of respect for you and what you did in your playing time, man. I hope you know we still love you. You got fans out here. So
appreciate it.
I want to say this, man. I really want to quit drinking, but the Titans got me drinking more. I'd love to give it up, but it's like an emotional roller coaster, and I'm thinking about this bye week that they got right now. I know we can't do nothing about that, but I really wish we could push that bye week after Philadelphia because, man, when our ex-boyfriend AJ comes through here and these guys are 4-0, man, I think we're going to get exposed in every weakness that we got. I just really wish, man, that, we got to set our expectations higher. I understand we got injuries and everything, but, this barely squeaking by thing, it just ain't enough for me because that's telling me we ain't going to make it far in the playoffs. I just want to hear what y'all had to say. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thank you, Phil. It's living dangerously, isn't it?
Yeah. But, A.J. Brown, I'll go to that comment. It's always personal when you come back to the franchise, regardless of the circumstance of why you left. It's always personal to the franchise that let you go, whether it was free agent, you didn't get a deal, or this case, a trade because you wanted a deal. It's going to be interesting that day. He's going to be talking mad junk that whole game.
Sure is.
And if they don't got some things ironed out in their secondary, it's going to be a rough
long day.
It's going to be a rough
That's
day.
a quarterback that can get away from your front seven.
Exactly. And then, and AJ's always been good in a scramble drill, making plays downfield. So that's going to be interesting. But to his point about this team making you want to drink,
it's a great quote.
It's a great quote. I get it. It's not sexy. It's not, blowing teams out as Titans got blown at 41, whatever.
It's not Buffalo.
It's not that. But at the end of the day, you're still 3-2, and we talked about it off air. They're the number 3 seed in the National Football League. As ugly as it is, when you look at it, the dust is cleared right now. Very worst, after all tonight's games take place, the Titans will be the number 3 seed if the playoffs end today. So this appreciate that for what it is there right now. Now, there's still a lot of football to go. We got 13, 14 weeks left of the season.
Right.
It's still a lot of football to go. They seem to have found something that's working, right? They've won 3 games in a row. They get the bye week, which I kind of agree with the call. You would love for this to be a little bit later. I know the injuries aside, coaches probably appreciate it, but you would love for this to be more towards the middle of the season. But you get opportunity. We talked about this off air as well. You get opportunity to go to Colts. You're up 2 on them if you beat them. You 2 on the division. You pretty much put them out of the running for the division. Now you just got to focus in on the 4 games between the Jaguars and Texans, and you win your division. And you get into the dance. And once you get into the dance, it's about matchups, it's about making plays and being hot, as we talked about with the Bengals. So it's not all glimmer, it's not all grim right now. It seems to be trending in the right way in spite of everything that they seem to be deficient in.
No doubt. Yeah, it gets a little better, and you get to lick your wounds a little bit over these next couple of days and this week, but I think the devil's advocate I always play to people that have this conversation with me, saying, well, why can't the Titans just blow any teams out? Why can't they look like the Chiefs? Why can't they look like the Bills? Well, 2 of the wins the Titans had in the regular season a season ago were against the Chiefs and the Bills.
Yeah.
They were against teams that play that style.
Yeah.
And the good of what this team is they can muck it up and make it ugly, and the front seven is good, and they're opportunistic on defense, and They catch the football when it's thrown to them on defense, and they create those plays. The problem is games like today and games like the New York Jets a season ago and the Giants in some ways. I know they're 4-1, but the Giants in week 1 this year. So where's the middle ground?
Yeah.
Because this team against solid opponents needs to continue to keep the foot on the gas pedal against teams like the Washington Commanders. And it doesn't have to be this exotic, flashy offense. Like, I want this team to still just be good playing their style. Like, your style shouldn't be playing to the level of your opponent.
Right.
Right? Like, you can play ugly, but still win by 14 points and just be better at the point of attack. And that's where there's that disconnect for me, Kevin, on this team, is that they want to play this ugly, kind of make it grimy and nasty football. In order to do that, you've got to be a lot better on the offensive line and blocking for your running back. And yeah, he had 100 yards today, but offensive line was not up to the standard the Titans are going to have to get from that unit in order to be a 1 seed, in order to make a run in the playoffs again.
Yeah, but let me tell y'all the scores of the 99-2000 squad that I happen to be a part of that made the Super Bowl.
Yep.
36-35 we won.
Yep.
26-9. That's 2 scores.
Right.
2019. Then we lost 24-22. Then we won 14-11. Then we won 24-21.
Yeah.
Then we won 24-21 again. Then lost 17-0.
Yep.
Then we won 24-14. 16-10 we won 33-21. Then we lost. Then we lost 41-14. And that's the last time we lost to the Super Bowl. We won 21-14, 30-17, 41-14, 47-36. And then, of course, the playoff games there. And it's my point in saying is the NFL is not a bunch of blowouts. You heard a few in there. We were a recipient of one, and we gave a few. But more often than not, we're talking about a touchdown or less game. And you just want to get out with the victory. Whether you win by 1 point and you win by 30 points, you just want to win. You just want to keep winning and stacking the wins as much as you can, because it is that hard to be up for 17 games in the season now, 17 games, and get victories in the National Football League. I don't care if a team was 0-17 the year before. They're going to be tougher the next year to beat. Or if they were 4-12 as we saw, or 4-13 as we saw, the Giants came back here and got a win. It is hard to get wins, especially on the road, traveling. Your body is hurting, you're aching, you still got a little jet lag in you, and you go in and you come out with a victory against a Commanders team that's not that bad. Their defense is pretty solid.
Defensive line's excellent.
Yes, and you still get a win. So, I want people to understand, man, just don't get me wrong. It's not great. It's not. But you still have a 3-game win streak. You're right there in the hunt to win your division and get in the playoffs. So let's not forget that. Now, there's only one champion at the end of the year. And the point is, we want that championship. I happen to be part of a team that got there and we didn't win.
Right.
And we haven't been back there since. And I think that is the ultimate goal for everybody, especially fans. That's what we want, is that goal. When you see what's going on with the Chiefs and the Rams, who've been back multiple times since, and things of that nature. That is why we're like, okay, when is it our turn to get back to the show? And that's the Super Bowl.
615-737-1045 if you want to jump in on the phone lines here on Titans Talkback. Jonathan in Nashville is up next. What's going on, Jonathan?
Not too much. How are you guys doing?
We're good.
Good. I just had a quick comment. I know Downing is probably not the best offensive coordinator in the National Football League, but I do want to say that Downing is not the offensive line coach. He's not the tight ends coach. He's not the quarterbacks coach. He's not the wide receivers coach. Todd Downing calls the plays. And to be quite fair, I saw a lot of good play calling today and some very horrible execution. Todd Downing did not allow 5 sacks. Todd Downing did not have Robert Woods drop 3 passes. Todd Downing, to be quite fair, I think he's calling a decent offense. Todd Downing doesn't change his strategy at halftime from something great to something pitiful. This team is not as strong for 4 quarters as we need them to be. So while Todd Downing is a decent scapegoat, Todd Downing's not our problem. And J-Rob, believe it or not, is not our problem. The problem is we're not executing for 4 quarters. And, I know everyone wants to pin it on someone because it's easy to blame someone. But let's talk about execution. And let's talk about playing for 4 quarters. Let's talk about being a complete offense and defense. We spend 90% of our time talking about how bad the offense is, but yet today the problem was realistically the defense. We have a lot of issues, and let's not sugarcoat it, and let's not pin it on Todd Downing, because this is not his fault at all. I saw some creative play calls today that I was pretty impressed with, and we just could not execute. So I just wanted to say that let's leave the guy alone, and let's focus on individuals and the team, and not coaches.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, I'm gonna give him this. Coaches coach, players play. At the end of the day, I call the play, you execute. That is absolutely true. But I will say this: coaches put players in position to have the greatest opportunity for success, and that's the responsibility of him. Based on the talent you have against the talent across from you, putting your guys in the greatest place to be successful. And that is where I sometimes question his ability or his play calling as a player or a fan watching, right? Sometimes I feel like we just call the plays because that's the offensive play, as opposed to putting my guy in a position to be successful against the guy in front and across from me, meaning creating a matchup, putting Woods, knowing they're going to run this coverage on this down versus a linebacker. Okay, now I should win that battle, right? So I'm counting. We had 11 possessions. I'm not counting that last one after the interception.
Right. 11
possessions. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3-and-outs, right? They had 3 scoring drives, 6, and all of them were 6 or more. 6 for 52 yards and a touchdown, 15 for 76 yards and a touchdown, 7 for 85 and a touchdown. Everything else resulted in a punt. So I'm not excusing the players from execution standpoint. You got to catch the football. You got to block. Offensive line got to protect. There was a time that the running back, he tried to chip, but he glanced the guy. He didn't even get any opportunity. And, of course, the guy beats the tackle. And you got to do some things to help your guys to protect you sometimes. But when you look at this, where was the help in the play calling to get this? There was only 3 scoring drives where you feel like he had a good sense, a good rhythm. Now, to the caller's point, players do have to execute. Sometimes you make a terrible call and make a big play and make the coordinator and head coach look like a genius, right? You can, like a Steph Curry pulling half-court shot. That's not a play call. Steve Kerr didn't call that. Now, he looks like a genius because Stephen Curry's knocking down all these threes, but that's not the play call. And that's kind of the same premise. Sometimes you can have a terrible play call and the player make a big play and you look like a genius. Well, I'm also on the other side of this. Sometimes you can make the player look better than what he is by your ability to make the calls against the guys across from you as well. So it's some give and take in that. I'm not excusing either side of it.
It's a nuanced conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe there's some fear from his point to maybe do some things he won't because of the offensive line's inconsistency. Maybe there's a fear there. I don't know. Maybe he's trying some different things in the games and it hasn't worked out, so he goes back to what he's comfortable with. I'm not exactly sure without being in the film room with him, but I'm going to tell you from my perspective, from a fan perspective, the creativity and things just hasn't been there.
I agree, and I think ultimately if you know the offensive line is at issue, you have a rookie right guard, or not rookie right guard, but might as well be a rookie. He didn't really play all but one game. I just played one game last year. Dylan Radins as the left tackle against San Francisco on Thursday Night Football. I wanted to see Ryan Tannehill rolled out of the pocket more. I don't think we've seen him run enough, escaping the pocket and using his legs as an extra option in that play-action passing game. The Titans have established the run. I want to see them then pay off that establishment of the Derrick Henry run and the outside zone they've been using that's been really successful, specifically behind Dennis Daly, who's been okay as a run blocker, and Nicholas Petit-Frere, who's graded out pretty well as a run blocker too. Use that to set up the passing game, but also give your quarterback an extra beat to get away from Montez Sweat and from Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne and the guys on the front 7 for the Washington Commanders. That's what I want to see more of. The chipping, the tight ends and Jeff Swaim helping out your left tackle that's just on an absolute island over there. I think Jonathan is right in his call in saying that Todd Downing is made the scapegoat probably more than he really is.
Absolutely. I'd agree with that.
But ultimately, could he do a better job in setting up a depleted Titans offense for success? Yes.
Yeah.
He absolutely could.
Now, there's one drive in particular. I'll even get it past it. It was a 3-and-out drive.
Yep.
They were on their own 4-yard line when they started the drive. There ain't a whole lot of plays in your playbook.
Damage control.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
This offense, with as injured as they are on the offensive line, damage control.
Just don't make a mistake, right?
Exactly.
So I take that away. And so I understand everybody's frustration, and I get it. And I think there's enough blame to go around for the lack of productivity from an offensive standpoint, from both sides of the equation, players and coaches. But one thing you can never replace as far as consistency is the inconsistency from an injury standpoint. That you might have things in your mind and things that you want to do, but then you don't know you're going to have this piece is gone, that piece is gone. So again, I'm not trying to give him a pass, but he may have had some things schemed up for certain people, then they're not playing. I don't know.
Right.
Again, without being in that huddle, without being in that meeting room, without being at that whole meetings and practice field, all that kind of stuff, I'm basing off of what I see on Sundays. And what I see on Sunday right now is an inconsistent pattern of again, we're talking about 3 different drives at 3 very different points in the game. And what we can say, though, if you want to be positive, is last few weeks they haven't done much of anything in the second half.
Nothing.
Well, at least they scored this week in
11 straight quarters with no second half points until today.
Until today, at least so we looking for positives. There's a positive, and that was needed. Every bit of those points was needed for the victory today. So they found a way to win. And so at the end of the day, we can nitpick, we can be mad, we can be angry, and we can continue to talk about it. But they won. And them boys are going to go in that locker room. They're going to get in that ice tub. They're going to lift some weights. They're going to watch some film. They're going to practice. And they're going to try to do it all over again in 2 weeks. And that's ultimately, you just want to get to the next week and try to win another football game. And right now, they're leading the division, the 3rd in the AFC, and we'll see what happens after next week.
615-737-1045 is the number here on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Logan and Chris will lead us off when we come back. We'll get to Elijah and Frank as well on the phone lines where you can join us. 615-737-1045. It's Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company on 1045 The Zone.
Play fake. Tannehill rolling to the right, looking, pumping, throwing deep downfield. Going to give Westbrook-Akina a shot at it. He got it! Westbrook-Akina with the catch at the 11-yard line over McCain. What a play by Nick Westbrook-Akina to find the ball and win the battle.
61 yards for NWI, the longest pass play of the season for the Tennessee Titans, and boy, was it a big one, setting up what ended up being the game-winning touchdown courtesy of Derrick Henry. It's Titans Talkback presented by Lee Company here at 104.5 The Zone, or you can join us on the phone lines at 615-737-1045. Let's try Logan in Athens again on the phone line, see if we can get connected with him. What's going on, Logan?
Hey, what's up, y'all? Sorry I missed you before. My neighbor came over.
That's all right.
Wasn't able to answer the phone. But just wanted to say, I love seeing the Titans win games like this because I think all of us as fans have experienced the Titans lose so many games like this. I mean, even the first game of the year this year with the missing the field goal to lose to the Giants. So, like, seeing the Titans with a depleted roster being able to, like, finish the drill here, it's just encouraging to me, and it makes me feel good about, I know the person was talking about Todd Downing earlier. Like, yes, I agree he has some struggles, but I just think as far as a coaching staff and as far as, like, the culture of this team, I feel so good about the culture of this team right now to be able to win a game like that. And it's just like, even if it's not this year, I mean, the fact that we re-signed J-Rob and Coach Rabel for, like, an extension, I feel good about the direction the team is moving. And I know everyone nitpicks like y'all were saying, but it's good to see them win a game like that, which is not a game they normally win. So that's all I got.
Thank you, Logan.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That was a classic Mike Vrabel win.
Yeah.
Again,
they persevere. They find ways to win football games at the end of the day. That's what you want. I saw a stat. I think Tannehill, since he became a starter, has as many or more wins than Tom Brady.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So doing something right.
Right. Absolutely. 615-737-1045. Appreciate the call, Logan. Up next, we go to Chris in Lewisburg on the phone line. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, guys. Hey, I got to admit, I didn't get to watch the game today, but when I got back in the truck after the game was over and turned the radio on, you guys were talking so bad about the secondary and the O-line that I figured they had lost. And I Googled it and found out they had squeaked out another close one. And I have to agree with the previous caller, all the positives that he mentioned. And overall, J-Rob has done a great job, when you look at the win-loss total. But he has missed on a couple major picks the last couple of years. Mainly, we won't even talk about Isaiah Wilson, but Dylan Radins and Caleb Farley. Coming out of camp, I thought Radins had played so badly that he shouldn't even have made the starting 53. But I want to get your take, Kevin, on Caleb Farley. I know throughout his career, college and pros, he has not played much football. But what you've seen from him, do you think he has potential to become a good corner, or have you not seen anything to make you believe that?
Thank you, Chris.
I think he needs to move to safety.
Really?
I think so. I think with his hips, I think he's going to struggle with the routes. I think he's going to struggle with some quick guys as we've seen. I don't know if he has that. He doesn't have that top end speed as we saw today. I don't think Brown's one of the fastest receivers in the National Football League. Can you imagine if that was Tyreek Hill when he ain't been that close? Just throwing it out there. I think he needs to maybe start thinking about moving to free safety. Which is not a knock on him. Troy Vincent was a corner in the National Football League, move over to safety at one point or another in his career as well. Rod Woodson as well. Another guy who started his career at corner, ended up being an all-pro free safety. So I think he might want to consider that move if he can come down and make plays. It's not to say that he's not a guy who can have a long career in the National Football League. I just think right now, confidence aside, he looks to be, kind of in that limbo right now. He's not sure of himself. He's not confident at the point of attack. He didn't have that top end speed. I didn't see that top end speed today. But I just think he may want to consider that move. And I think that could be a very strategic career move for him, moving to free safety, if he can pick up those concepts a little bit. It's not going to be that big of a jump from corner to free because you're still pattern reading, still reading linemen, you're still understanding pass concept and combinations and routes of that nature. But the physicality obviously changes a lot. So we'll see. But that's my opinion. I feel like he can still be a long-time pro playing free.
Very interesting. That's the first time I've heard somebody say that. And we've talked about ways to kind of get Caleb Farley involved and just doing something simple enough to handle one job and one assignment.
Yeah.
You're on the field in these situations, and that's it.
Yeah.
You know, the way the Titans were able to bring along Amani Hooker when he came in to this Titans defense and ease him along, and now he's in a big role and he's got a big long-term deal. The difference is Amani Hooker wasn't a first-round pick.
Yeah.
Caleb Farley came in with first-round pick expectations. If you can find that way for him to be useful for you long-term, that's great. But it's difficult to see a path where he contributes meaningful minutes at the cornerback position this season.
Now, there is a scheme that I think he could be very successful in. Patriots did it years ago, and Tampa Bay made this famous, and it started with the Steelers in the 70s. It's the Tampa 2. Is what we call it, a Tampa 2. You run the mic down the middle.
It's Monty Kiffin.
Yeah, and you play him on the corner. And, Ty Law with New England all those years, with the Patriots first few years, they were going Super Bowls in 2001 and all those. That's where he made his killing out of. He's putting his hands on Marvin Harrison and things of that nature. He wasn't one-on-one. He was in Tampa 2. And you talk about Barber and the guys in Tampa Bay where that name got famous because of Dungy. That in that scheme at corner, he can be super successful because he's a long-rangey guy. He can be physical at the point of attack, keeping his eyes to the backfield to see what comes out from the number 2, number 3 receiver to the backfield, and be able to just pattern that concept. The problem with that is you got to be able to up front. Your 4 guys, and Titans are not they're not an even front team.
Right.
They have to be able to get after quarterback, like Simeon Rice and Warren Sapp and some of those guys like that were getting after the quarterback. So that's the give and take. Now, if you're talking about a scheme like the Titans, when they rely on you to be able to hold up one-on-one, I just haven't seen it yet in his few years here. And today, to me, it was kind of evident. It's like, okay, I think their quote-unquote experiment with him might be over.
Let's go to Elijah in Nashville on the phone lines real quick before we take another break. What's going on, Elijah?
How y'all doing, boys? My question is basically just pretty straightforward. I know Derrick Henry's had 100 yards in the last 3 games, but on a pretty big amount of touches. I just wanted to get y'all's opinion on if y'all think he's slowing down a lot or y'all think he's going to kick it up more this season. And, yeah, that's about it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Elijah.
I mean, you hope for the latter. I hope he's going to kick it up a notch. They're going to need all hands on deck, as we've seen. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit on the show, like the fact that they've had so many roster moves over the last year and a half. It's almost like a whole roster and a half considering the moves they've had to make. So you would hope he kicks up a notch. That's almost the expectation at this point, right?
Right.
That's what I'm looking for.
I think he will. I think he's the least of my worries right now if I'm, looking from the Titans' perspective because – I mean, we've mentioned it before. He's averaged under 4 yards per carry in September his entire career, including really when he was a starter and when he was the backup to DeMarco Murray at the beginning of his career. But this is around the time, end of October, beginning of November. November is the Derrick Henry month. It always has been. I actually like what the Titans' offensive line has been able to do in run blocking. I think they've been good. Nicholas Petit-Frere has been a good surprise for this team in the way he's been able to play at the right tackle position and blocking for Derrick Henry. But I think it's the same Derrick at this point. And I want to continue to see him used in the passing game because, again, a couple of catches, 30 yards, and a tough catch that he made to get the ball down to the 1 yard line.
That was a big catch. That was surprised.
For his second touchdown run.
Yeah. I wasn't used to seeing him catch the Dyson in traffic with a guy hanging on him. That was a tough catch, man.
Really tough.
Yeah. And I don't know. I'm trying to look it up as we're talking where he is amongst league leaders in rushing. He's still in that conversation despite not having the explosive games that we've grown accustomed to, right? He hasn't had that 70, 80-yard home run yet. He hasn't had that yet, but even that first game, I talked about it that week. He had 21 carries for 82 yards.
Yeah.
He had 2 big runs called back that game for holding. One of them was a phantom hold. I didn't even think it was real holding. So we're talking about a guy who could be at about 500-600 yards had that game gone a little bit different. So, I think we're so used to him being explosive and having that 70, 80. I think even time they get inside the 5, I'm waiting on that Jacksonville run, that 99-yard run every time. Every time.
And there were a lot of runs today. We've mentioned the holding calls that are brought back long runs.
Yes.
There were a number of runs that were called back for holding today.
Exactly.
A holding that was sometimes, pivotal to him getting that yardage, and sometimes it wasn't. But no, I don't think Derrick Henry is a huge concern for you at this point. Something to monitor, but still not something that you're overly concerned about right now. 615-737-1045 is the number. Frank and Donaldson will lead us off on the phone lines when we come back. It's Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Facility managers need a reliable partner for their HVAC, plumbing, and electrical needs. They trust Lee Company's 24/7 service and their team of experts. Your next play, visit leecompany.com. Lee Company, all you need. It's Titans Talkback, where the Tennessee Titans get a 21-17 win over the Washington Commanders.
Henry goes in motion to the right. They fake a screen to him, throw back to Hilliard. He cuts at the 10. He jukes at the 5. He goes straight into the end zone. Touchdown, Titans, for the third time this year, Dontrell Hilliard.
There's how it sounded on Titans radio. Voice of the Titans, Mike Keith, calling the third touchdown catch of 2022 for Dontrell Hilliard, getting the party started for the Tennessee Titans in a 21-17 win over the Washington Commanders. 615-737-1045 is the phone number here on Titans Talkback. We take you up to Westwood One's coverage of Sunday Night Football here on 1045 The Zone, coming up at 6:30. So plenty of time to chime in with your opinion on this one. Going into the bye week, you can give us a call at 615-737-1045. Frank and Donaldson is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Frank? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I appreciate you taking the call. I don't know where you get these phone calls from. Homeboy didn't even watch the game, calling in, going, what's going on? It's like, come on, man.
We had 8 different states represented last week, Frank.
Fair enough. But, Dice, you are the man on many levels, but you politely comment on these crazy questions. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say after this game that Todd Downing needs to be fired. By no means am I saying that. We all know the expectations of fans are just so poorly managed by the fans. One guy asked about Derrick Henry slowing down. You can't run for 2,000 yards every year. I mean, if NFL teams aren't scheming after multiple 2,000-yard seasons, they pack the box on him. He's getting hit 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and we're asking if he's slowing down. I think my only problem is, the other guy's saying, nobody asked Robert Woods to drop the ball. It's like, well, yeah, he's not walking on the field going, I can't wait to drop this ball right now. But we're not putting ourselves in positions. You hit it on the head, play action pass. We finally established a run. No, not every play has to be a 45-yard bomb or a 99-yard, touchdown. It can be get behind the linebacker, get in front of the secondary, get them open in space. Robert Woods was really good about that in L.A., and this team this is an unforgiving league, and you are winning with just you saw those offensive linemen today. They were on skates, man. I saw those guys. They did everything they could, and they came out with a win. Praise the defense, power through, take the bye week, and get a win against the Colts at home. We are a field goal away from only having one loss, and we would be singing a different tune. So I have no question. I'm just praising you guys for listening to these wonderful callers and just being like, hey, manage your expectations better. Take every win you can get and get to the dance, like you said, Dice, because that's all that matters. Nobody ever thought we was going to go to the AFC Championship a few years ago, and there we were. So Thank you guys for being level-headed where I cannot.
Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate the call.
That's a great call. I appreciate that, man. At the end of the day, especially with professional sports, you just want your franchise, and maybe I'm biased because I happen to play, but you just want your franchise to get into the dance.
Well, and you've got the perspective of someone that played, right, too, and you've been there and you've had these conversations in the locker room.
Yeah, and that's what we want. We want to get to the opportunity to get to the playoffs. The playoffs is where you get opportunity to win a championship. Don't get me wrong, and I've said this before in this show and plenty of other times outside the show, it is hard to be up each week. It's even college football is kind of the same way now. The many games they play, but you physically, your body, you're not even starting to feel somewhat like yourself until Thursday, Friday, and at that point you are tapering down the preparation, and then on Saturday you're traveling. So unless you're at home and you're traveling, so then y'all have traveled before. You know how that toll on your body, your feet, you feel glumpy. There's a lot that goes to now. You told me to go play for 60 minutes of football at my highest level. That's hard to do every week. But the guys play hard competitively, and sometimes you don't have it as mentally as together as you would. Sometimes not as together as physically as it would any other week. But that's not to make an excuse. That's just saying enjoy what we have. You got a coach and a franchise that's winning. There's a lot of franchises. I can't imagine being a Detroit Lions fan, man. Really, think about that.
Yeah.
The Browns. There's some franchises that have been around the National Football League for years that haven't even smelled the success that the Titans have had in the past 20 years. Now we all tend to look at what Tom Brady has done with New England,
of course,
what Mahomes is doing, what the Rams have done. We're looking at some anomalies, if you will, in professional sports. But in the grand scheme of things, you have a winning franchise here. Just we need to, again, to the fans' perspective, just go to that next level. Let's go ahead and amp this up. Let's go ahead and get to the Super Bowl and see what happens. And I think that's what the city's hungry for. Let's get to Super Bowl again.
And the way you amp that up is when the playoffs begin.
Yeah.
As well. Right now, this is the expectation of who the Titans are.
Yeah.
They beat the solid teams. They kind of grind out these wins against teams like the Washington Commanders, who were certainly not fantastic a season ago. I think the issue for me, Kevin, is that the toughest part of your schedule is still to come.
Yeah.
You still have to play Patrick Mahomes. You still have to play Justin Herbert, another dynamic passing attack that if the playoffs started today, that's who you'd be playing in the first round. You still got to play Denver, which is certainly an easier matchup now than what you thought it was going to be.
True.
But you still got to go to Lambeau. Like that, to me, that's
Trevor
the
Lawrence.
issue. You've already played probably the two worst quarterbacks on your schedule today in Carson Wentz and Week 1 against Daniel Jones, who, oh by the way, is 4-1, like we mentioned earlier. That's where things get tough. And you mentioned splitting this thing up by quarters of a season. I would even go a step further and say I assume the Titans would have looked at this first 5 weeks as more just like a season of its own.
Yeah.
Get to the bye week. Let's be at the top of the AFC South going into the bye, going into that game against Indianapolis, where Mike Vrabel has been terrific in his career, out of a bye, rested, healthy, the way this team will be at that point. I mean, you're looking at Monty Rice, who's back. You're looking at Amani Hooker, who practiced a little bit early last week, wasn't able to go in concussion protocol coming back. You hope to get him back. You look at Traylon Burks. He's still got to sit out 3 more games on injured reserve, so you hope to get him back. But Ugo Amadi is healthier again, practiced this week, wasn't able to go. Elijah Molden, we haven't heard an update on him, hasn't been designated to return yet, but he's getting closer. This was the first kind of checkpoint of the season today. And I think if we had asked Titans fans, would you take being first in the AFC South going into that bye week, a lot of them wouldn't ask what the record is. They would just sign up for it and say, sure, absolutely.
And when you think about the first 5 games, if there were a loss in there, which one would you automatically kind of assume that was going to be the one?
You would assume it would be Buffalo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, again, to your point earlier in the show, a field goal away from that being one, people are like, well, I get it. We're 4-1. I get that loss. Buffalo was playing well. They were lights out that night. They were hitting on all cylinders. I get it. We're 4-1 leading the division. So we're not. It's not that far off, y'all. So to your point, what you just spoke about, going to the bye week, leading your division, all right, that's good. Now you have opportunity to get healed. You get the opportunity to self-scout. You get the opportunity to get better in some areas from a play calling perspective, from a schematic standpoint. There's a lot you could do, and you get to scout an opponent in your division with extra week of preparation for the second time around to go ahead and put somewhat a distance between you and everybody else in the division. They're sitting at 500, the Colts are, and you get opportunity to go up 2 games on them based on head-to-head. That's significant. So this next game is pretty huge.
Absolutely. It is very, very big, and you could effectively end the Colts' chances of contending in the AFC South.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you win the next one. Colts, by the way, get Jacksonville next week, too. So if the Colts win their next 2 games, the Colts will be top of the AFC South.
Yep.
Mathematically. So going to be interesting to see how that continues to unfold these next couple of weeks. 615-737-1045, the number. Bobby is up next in Nashville on the phone lines. What's going on, Bobby?
Hey, how you doing, gentlemen? First-time caller, long-time listener.
Appreciate it.
I've viewed the game, the last several games that they've had, and the rest of them I've listened to on the radio. And what I've noticed, one of the things of it is, and when it comes to the offensive coordinator on the second half, he keeps calling the same plays, except for today. He was a little bit flexible with that. But the thing of it is, I think that the offensive coordinator and the offensive line are not on the same page. It should be where we should be getting the ball out of Tannehill's hands more quicker than what they've been doing. I have seen that he's been holding the ball too long for a receiver to become open, and during that period of time, it is no gain. And so I want to hear y'all's feedback on that. I think that he may be making some changes as far as the offensive coordinator is doing, but he could do a whole lot better job. If he's not going to do a better job, he ought to be coaching Pee Wee League. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bobby. I'll kind of lead you off with this. It's hard to throw the quick hitters when you don't have a deep threat to push those safeties back. The safeties are in the box, and you've got 8 in the box so much to stop Derrick Henry that you can't expect the short, quick hitter slants and comeback routes to work because defenses don't expect you to throw it over your head.
Yeah. I think there's a happy medium in here, and what the caller saying, what you're referencing. I think what we haven't seen for the Titans, for the most part, this year in particular, is the one that gets you the quick hitter, catch and run. A lot of times you can look at the play today, the couple big plays they gave up over the top. We get fascinated with that, but most big plays, if you will, are catch and run, whether it be a scheme play, a good one-on-one victory from the receiver beating the corner or something to that effect. Just a quick 3-step or plant and throw type throw. To the caller's point, we haven't necessarily seen that. And I don't know if that's just the ability of the players or if that's just the plan as far as offensive play calling. But I think most teams, if not all teams, take on the personality of the head coach.
Yeah.
And Titans do. They are a gritty team. They don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to turn the football over. They would much rather play solid defense, keep things in front of them, win the games ugly. Now, when you get a blowout win, kudos, and we're happy to get a blowout win. But at the same time, they just want to be at the end, be able to hold their hands up in victory at the end of the day, saying that we made less mistakes than you, we made more plays than you, and that's how we won this football game. Whether we have 5 completions of 35 yards or more or not, at the end of the day, we just want to win the football game. He doesn't care about that. He don't care. Now, I wouldn't say he don't care about Derrick Henry getting the football because he understands that's my bread and butter. That's how we win football games, by getting my best player the ball in his hands. But at the same time, you think he's worried about Derrick Henry getting 2,000 yards?
Oh, not at all.
Heck no.
Not at all.
Heck no. He wants to get to the playoffs and win a championship. And so that's the ultimate prize, the ultimate goal. How we get there is going to look different each week. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, by utilizing Derrick Henry and running backs in particular, I'm going to say both running backs in the passing game, has seemed to open some things up for the running game. That's seemed to loosen them up a little bit. They're not as aggressive to come down and run and coming and blitzing on passing downs because they've shown the ability to catch the ball in the backfield and make big plays. 3 touchdowns by Hilliard, man, that's huge.
Huge.
That's huge.
Yeah. I don't know where this offense is without Dontrell Hilliard making those plays. And credit to Todd Downing and the entire staff, Tim Kelly included, for getting him open.
Yeah.
Making it happen.
Screens in the flat one-on-ones. Finding ways to get the ball in the hand, and he's good at run out the catch. So he's a good compliment right now to what Derrick Henry's doing.
615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. We're here with you for another half hour on Titans Talkback, presented by League Company. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com. Howard and White House will lead us off after the break. If you want to jump in, the number is 615-737-1045. It's Titans Talkback, presented by League Company at 1045 The Zone.
Tannehill gives Henry diving, stretching the ball. Touchdown, Titans! Henry broke the plane by stretching the football, and Tennessee has surged back in front.
That was the winner for Derrick Henry, his second rushing touchdown of the night. 28 carries, 102 for the King. 2 more catches for 30 yards, 147 all-purpose 2 weeks ago, 143 last week, and today 132 all-purpose yards for Derrick Henry in a 21-17 win over the Washington Commanders. The phone number is 615-737-1045. It is Titans Talkback, presented by League Company here on 1045 The Zone. League Company, all you need. Visit them online at leaguecompany.com. Will Boling, Kevin Dyson with you, and we go back to the phone lines where Howard in White House will lead us off. What's going on, Howard?
What's going on, man? Great win today. There's a few things I want to say. When I forgot who was on the defense, number 20, I think, from Washington or whatever. When he tackled Derrick Henry, didn't it seem to y'all like Derrick Henry got kind of mad, and then that's when all his yardage came about? And another thing, I don't know about Westbrook-Akina. Is he just like a third down person or whatever, or does he play first and second? Because we need to get him more in the offense.
Thank you, Howard. Yes, he did have one run that made him pretty angry. And well, he had a couple. Like we've seen Derrick Henry show a lot more emotion after runs. We saw him
talking to him.
We saw him rip his helmet off last week after a run that got called back on a Traylon Burks holding call, which wasn't holding, by the way. I'm still going to say that on the goal line in that game against Indy a week ago. And Mike Keith has said this with us on Ramon, Kayla, and Will on the Zone that he is taking the Cincinnati loss personally still, and is still taking it personally that Jonathan Taylor has just been crowned the rushing king and this coronation of him after last season. So I do think there is something to be said just about him playing with a chip on his shoulder a little bit more than usual this season. But I do think that his added contribution in the passing game means that we should see him a little bit more on some of these third downs.
Well, that I believe that's true, that part of it. I think the other part of what the conversation is the added attitude. You got to understand, guys are going to try to find ways to get you out your game. They're going to try to find ways to get you distracted. And for some, it works more than others. And I guarantee you they're talking about knocking the king off his throne. They're talking mad trash to him right now. Because that is the key. They know he's the key to the car that drives them. And the key to he's everything for the Titans offense, right? So I promise you, them guys are doing a little extra, pushing a little harder, using his body to get up off of him, pushing him on his head. We saw the extra push from Sweat today that got the king riled up. Like, people are going to try to do something because they understand as the Titans go, so does the crown. And when I'm talking about the king, right? And so, you're going to get some of that. Yeah. So to me, that comes with it. And him taking it personally, he's letting everybody know, like, man, we're not going to be a pushover. You're going to still have to deal with me. Again, he probably, like Mike Keith told you, he's probably feeling that loss with the Bengals. He felt like that's that taste in his mouth in the playoffs, the opportunity, the way it ended, the way he was shut down, the way people talked about that he looked like he was backsliding. He wasn't the same physical player that he was. He's taking all that personal. And, once he gets hot, he'll get hot. Now, we all know this National Football League, you may be hot for a few weeks and you cool off, but what you really want, you want him to be in rhythm come November, December, January, as you mentioned earlier. The Titans offense is in the rhythm and he gets going, he's healthy and he gets going, because that is what you're going to need when it comes to playoff football in January, leading hopefully into February.
Derrick Henry is the offense.
Yes.
He is. He's going to be, as long as he is healthy and as long as Mike Vrabel and John Robinson are calling the shots. And until we see something crazy change with his production, Derrick Henry is the Titans offense.
Absolutely.
Everything else keys off of him.
Hey, I've been on teams where head coach has made statements to his coordinator. If you throw another bleeping pass this half, you are fired after the game. Like I'm telling you, not that Vrabel's calling plays, but he's in more of control than people probably understand and give him credit because he understands his bread and butter. He understands time management, the game, what he's thinking through the game as far as going forward on fourth down, punt situation, things of that nature. He's actually looking at the clock and managing things of that nature as well. So there is that element of it as well. You got to take on the personality of your head coach. If your head coach, who's like we'll talk about McVay, who's we're watching now, his mentality is he's trying to score as many points as possible. He almost rather it be a track meet, and then he's throwing the ball up in the air. That's not Vrabel's mentality. He doesn't like track meets. He wants to play this game in the mud, man. He likes that slow-paced game. If he can water the field and have some 8-inch grass, he would do it. That's his game, man. That's his game.
Certainly is. We mentioned the stat earlier. Carson Wentz, 4 for 5, 171 yards and 2 touchdowns today on passes 20-plus yards down the field. Ryan Tannehill, 1 for 2, 61 yards, the longest pass of the season to Nick Westbrook-Akine in the deep passing game, the play of the year on offense for the Titans so far in 2022. Want to see the Titans be able to make more plays like that happen. That starts up front with the protection and giving Ryan Tannehill time to throw. But I am kind of consistent in what I've said that Derrick Henry, as good as he has been these past 3 weeks, is opening up the passing game more. Who is that guy that's going to give you the added separation at the wide receiver position right now?
Well, even that play to Westbrook-Akine was an accident. It wasn't a called play. It was 2 football players ended up making a play. And it was a great, phenomenal catch by him. The adjustment he made for the distance that it was and hanging in the air was a phenomenal catch. And kudos to Tannehill throwing it up there to give him a shot after being pressured and trying to find some place to even throw the football. But I do think you got to start looking at ways to scheme up some guys, get some vertical threat game going to, again, hopefully loosen up defense even more to at least get the perception that you're going to take the top off of defense on a consistent basis. I think the screen game and utilizing Henry in the pass game, if he continue to make tough catches like he had, even the second catch and with a guy hanging over him and making that tough catch right before the goal line, or his third catch, I should say, that was a tough catch. That right there shows you he has the ability to catch out of the backfield a little bit more than we're giving him credit for. And if he continues to progress like that, it's going to be hard to keep the man off the field other than to give him some rest from time to time. But I still think the Titans have to find something consistently to take the top off the defense to at least give that inclination that you're going to go vertical. Even like I said, Nicholas Westbrook-Akine throw was an accident. It was kind of off a scramble. He was already running that direction. Tannehill threw it up, gave him a chance to make a play, and the guy made a play, as opposed to a schemed up, take 3 steps, 4-step drop, plant your foot, let it go. We haven't seen that and see the guy win one-on-one on the battle just yet. And that, to me, is the difference between having A.J. Brown and everybody else right now.
Yep.
So, but it remains to be seen if that develops later. The rookie who's out right now, we don't know if he's going to be that guy, but he doesn't seem to be that guy.
Right.
But he is a guy who can make plays for you in different facets of the game, and that seemed to be the trend to find ways to get him the ball, and then, of course, the turf toe. But so we'll see how this all progresses as the years go along, but they're going to need something to continue to keep that defense loosened up a little bit so you can get Derrick Henry going. Keep him going, I should say.
615-737-1045. When we come back, one final segment as we recap the Titans' 21-17 win over the Washington Commanders and look ahead to what the bye week is like from the former player's perspective. We'll talk to Kevin Dyson about what these next couple of days will be like for the Titans as they try to get healthy and get rested before Indianapolis comes to town in 2 weeks. That's next as we finish up the show here on Titans Talkback, presented by League Company on 104.5 The Zone.
Wentz takes the snap. Looking, throwing, intercepted! Intercepted, David Long! And the Titans have shut down the Commanders at the 2! Yes! That is a hell yes!
Anytime it's a hell yes from Dave McGinnis, something outstanding has happened. And that was the case today as David Long intercepts Carson Wentz, gets the Titans above 500 for the first time this season at 3-2. Along with Kevin Dyson, I'm Will Boling, wrapping it up one final time here on Titans Talkback, presented by Lee Company. Lee Company, all you need. Visit them online at leecompany.com. Ethan and Dixon is up next on the phone lines. What's going on, Ethan? How are you?
Hey, guys.
What's
going
on,
guys? What's up, Dice? Hey, I got a point I wanted to just run by you. So, I look at it like Vrabes is not his deal. It's almost by design that we win by one score. We win by one touchdown. We win a close game. We run the ball all game. Like, everybody seems to forget that this is not a Heupel-type offense. We don't have the weapons. We don't have the coaching for that. Everything we're doing is by design. So I think the fans and even the media need to look at that and say, you know what, the Titans got a W. How long has it been since we all looked around and said, man, we're mad even though we're getting a W? That's a good thing. I think the Titans fans as a whole are growing. I think that's a good thing because we're mad even though we still got the W. But, again, we're never going to be Josh Heupel at Tennessee based on the coaching staff, the way they want to win a close game. They do not want to blow people out. That is by design. What do you think about that, Dice?
Thanks, Ethan.
I would agree. I said something similar. I think the personality of the coach, he's not like McVay. He's not the guy who's trying to put up 30, 40 points a game. It's not a track meet type coach. Now, sometimes those games happen inadvertently. You got to kind of right game plan, guys hitting on all cylinders, things of that nature. But he's more of a methodical, time management, defensive-oriented, field position type of coach. And that's the style of play you get. He would rather grind it out and get the victory. He's every bit as happy as this 21-17 win as he would be with a 41-0 type win. Matter of fact, I almost think he'd be like, hey, he'd try to find something wrong with the 41-point win because that didn't go to the script, so to speak. So, victory is a victory. The National Football League wins are hard to come by, and if you can get it, whether it's 21-17, 24-21, who cares? At the end of the day, you won. You're 3-2. You lead the division. You go into the bye week with a chance to get healthier and hit the ground running for the last 13 games.
I agree, and I think the issue, though, is how sustainable is it to be one play away from winning or losing like every single week?
Yeah.
Like they were today. They were against Indianapolis. It's living dangerously, but ultimately, I think you're right in that we have the proof of concept to see that this is just who Mike Vrabel teams are.
Yeah.
And it's not like last season was the only time he's ever been successful playing this way.
Well, I'll say this. I'll add this to that. I get it. No, it's not sexy football, but at the end of the day, what do you care about? You care about the victory.
Care about the W.
You care about the W. Yeah. And regardless, is it sustainable or not? It's worked. And he's not the only one. Jeff Fisher was the same way.
It's Titans football.
It's defensive-minded coaches who try to be solid on defense, not give a whole lot of points, methodical, time of possession, convert third downs, don't turn the football over. That's the mindset of a defensive-minded coach, and that's what Vrabel is. He's a defensive-minded coach who wants to be physical. They want to run the football. They want to make you submit to their will and ultimately win football games. And we've seen it. They get into the 20s, mid-20s, they've given themselves a great chance to win because they play solid defense behind it. They haven't been, as far as this year in particular, they haven't been susceptible to the big play. Now, Saquon Barkley aside and what happened at Buffalo aside,
sure,
on a few occasions, but those plays today, similar to what happened those 2 or 3 I mentioned before, didn't cost you the game like they did the first couple weeks of the season. And so that shows you some growth in the team. It's not sexy by any means. Trust me, I was in that offense. I wish they threw the ball 50 times a game. I promise you I did. But at the end of the day, the formula is timeless and it works for the most part. At some point, you're going to have to flip your mindset. You're going to have to put the ball in. You're going to have to go chase points. Something's not going to be working. You're going to turn the ball over. The defense is going to struggle a little bit. Special teams may turn the ball over. Whatever it may be, you're going to have to chase points. And that's my worry. Do they have that capacity? We didn't see that at Buffalo. We didn't see them being able to chase points. They struggled. Are they built for that? And right now, I would say no.
On the way out, our look ahead presented by Eurofix. Let me remind you that Eurofix repairs everything European that you drive and below dealer pricing. ASE certified technicians, a local company that has serviced Middle Tennessee for over 2 decades. Visit EurofixOnline.com. Next week, the Titans are off. They will be back in action in 2 weeks at home against the Indianapolis Colts. That one, a noon kickoff in Nissan Stadium. Award-winning Titans countdown beginning at 11 o'clock. League Company countdown to kickoff is at 9, 2 weeks from now. Between then and now, Kevin Dyson, from the player's perspective, we've got about a minute here before we've got to get out. What is this next week like for you as you rest and get ready for Indy in 2 weeks?
Oh, man. It's first and foremost getting rest, getting healed up. Depending on where you're at physically, you might have to be here for treatment or something like that. But you like to believe you're healthy, especially if you're a rookie, young guy. This is an opportunity to go back on campus for a minute, be big man on campus, if you will.
Sure.
Go see some big games. If you're a former Vol, you got a big game this weekend, or you're former Crimson Tide.
Got a big team.
This is a big game. Big game this week. You might want to go enjoy that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because this might be the only opportunity to go catch your alma mater play. Health, you might. Like myself, I try to do a little bit of both. I was fortunate I might go see family and see a game or whatever, So it just depends on what stage you are. But ultimately, this is your last opportunity to really get away from the grind for a few days. Now, I'm assuming they're probably going to watch film, and then they're going to watch film for this week, early in the week, and then when you get towards Thursday, Friday, give them time off, come back Monday, hit the ground running.
It certainly will be a big week to rest and get ready. We will be back at it again in 2 weeks post-game every single Sunday after Titans Radio here on Titans Talkback as the Titans again get the win today, 21-17 over the Washington Commanders. Titans Radio coverage is produced by Philip Noel and Brad Willis. Studio producer is Joe Hunkapiller. Scoreboard producer is Lucas Panzica. Promotions director is Rich Ferris. Director of Sales Hunter Rice. General manager Allison Warren. Operations managers are Charlie Cook and Paul Mason. Executive producer of Titans Radio is Rhett Bryant. For Kevin Dyson and Brett Batchelor, our producer, I'm Will Boling, signing off tonight as the Tennessee Titans beat the Washington Commanders 21-17. We will talk to you in 2 weeks as the Titans host the Colts.